I'd like to welcome you to the trillion fill formula. This is quite exciting for me because when I first started to develop it, I thought, oh, let's call it the million fill formula. It'll sound really cool and everything. And as I started getting into it, I realized that a million fills really falls short. It's literally trillions of fills at your disposal here. And I'll show you how it works. We're dealing with exponents, so dealing with powers. When you deal with powers, it's an easy way to deal with very big numbers. If you have, say, 5 to the power of 10, that would be a very big number. So what we're going to do is I'm going to break it down for you, nice and simple at first, and we're just going to deal with 2 to the power of 1. Now the way this works is the 2 is going to be equated to our options. Okay, the options that we want to add into the fill. So here's our options. And our first options that we're going to use is just an accent and a regular note. So we'll have our accent and a normal note. So the 2 is the options. Now the 1 is going to represent how many notes we use. So this is how many. So we're only using one note. So here's one note, but now we're going to have 2 options with it, accent and normal. So there's our 2 notes. One is accented, one is normal. So you can see how this system works in developing this formula. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do 2 to the power of 2. The way the exponents work is it times it. So if I have 2 to the power 1 like I had earlier, it basically is 2 times 1, which equals 2. There's our 2 notes. Now we've got to the power of 2, it gives us 2 times 2, which equals 4. So now we have 4 options because we're dealing with 2 options and 2 notes. So here's our groups of notes. And now our options again are accented and normal strokes. So in our first one, we can have both of them accented. Second one, we can have both of them normal. And our third option, we can have the first one accented, second one normal. Fourth option, first one normal, second one accented. So it starts, you can see how to interchange the different options that we have. Next, I would like to look at 2 to the power of 3. So now we get 2 times 2, but it doesn't go 2 times 2 times 3. It goes 2 times 2 times 2. So now you get 2 times 2, which is 4, times 2 again, which is 8. So now we have 2 to the power of 3. 3 is how many notes we're going to use. 2 is our options. So we got 2 to the power of 3, 2 times 2 times 2 gives us 8 options in the groups of 3. So we have to have 3's and then 8 options. So there are our 8 options. Now on the first one, we'll have accent. So we're just dealing with the two options, sorry, in groups of 3. 2 options are accent and normal. So we got accent, normal, normal. Then we move our accent to the middle. These 2 are normal. And the accent on the end. Then what you can do is you add 2 accents. Last one's normal. And then you put the 2 accents on the end. And you go, and then the first one will be normal. Then your accents shift from the first one to the last one. And then there's the obvious, all 3 accented, and then all 3 are normal. So this is dealing with 2 to the power of 3. Now, what we'll do is we're going to start developing we'll have 3 to the power of 1. So now it becomes 3 times 1 equals 3. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put an accent with a normal stroke with a ghost stroke. So now we're dealing with one note with 3 different options. So we have our accent, our normal stroke, and then our ghost stroke. So that gives us 3 to the power of 1. Now when we change that to 3 to the power of 2, you get 3 times 3, which equals 9. Now I'll write out our groups of 2 notes. Let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Great. Now, with our options of 3 to these groups of 2, we have the first one being accented, second one normal, accented, ghost, then normal accent on the second one, so it's a variance of the first one. So as I'm doing these, there is no specific order. I just wrote them down so I wouldn't forget them and I can make sure I show you all the options. I'm just kind of writing them out how I wrote them here. You can start with either one. It doesn't really make a difference. I just want to make sure you get all of them. Then we get 2 of the regular, 2 accented, 2 ghost, then the first one ghost, and then the second one ghost. So right there from 3 to the power of 2, 3 options for 2 notes, 2 groups. This is what you'll get. And like I say, you could start at any random point. So now, what happens is we go 3 to the power of 3. Now, again, how we did the exponents up here, it becomes 3 times 3 times 3, which now gives us 27. So you can see already, just by going up one exponent, it doesn't go 9 to 18, it skips up. So this is where it starts to really build exponentially. So now I'm going to write these out. Okay, groups of tree. There we go. Now, we're dealing with groups of 3 with 3 options. So we're going to just intermix them. You can start with any one. I just, again, made my list so that I don't miss anything. So first of all, group of 3, just normal. Group of 3, accented. Group of 3, ghosted. First one accent, regular for those 2, and then you shift the accent, still regular notes there. Shift the accent, regular notes. Then we'll add in another accent with a regular note, and then we'll shift those as well. And then at the first and third. And then we'll do accents with ghosts. Last two are ghosted. First one's accented. Then we'll do the same shifting. So we ghost, accent, ghost, then accent, ghost, ghost with the accent at the end. Then we do two accents with a ghost, and again, shift that. So we're going 2, 2, and 2. Now you got an option of a regular note with ghosts. And now what we do is we shift that as well. Yeah, and then we go first and third ghosted, and then the first two ghosted. Then we got single ghosts with the normal stroke. And then we go accented with a ghost with a normal, normal, accented, ghost, ghost, normal, accent, accent, normal, ghost. And then ghost, accent, normal, normal, ghost with an accent. Now, in writing it out like this, I don't mean that these are eighth note triplets or anything like that. There is no note value. These are just your options for your groups of 3. So this is just 3. I just tied them together to make it a little bit cleaner, because I could easily just have them, 3 notes like that. But I just wanted to show you how this is one option. This is another option. So this has nothing to do with note value or speed. This is just showing how you can approach it with this system and further to develop it. Now, if we go back to our options here, I'm just going to show you how quickly this builds exponentially. If we go back to our options and just take 2 options, take out the ghost, and I'm going to deal with number 4. The example number 4 is just straight 16th notes. So there's 16 notes, right? So now we have 2 to the power of 16. Now this builds quite quickly, because now you don't just go 2 times 2 times 2 plus, times it by itself. It'll take it to 8, the next one, then you times it by 2, and then you get 16 times 2, and then you get 32. So you keep on timesing it up. So after 16 notes, with 2 options, just accent and normal, you have over 65,000 options, just in that one bar alone. Now, if we add in the ghost note again, oops, let me write this properly. Now we're back to 3 options. So 3 to the power of 16. So now it becomes 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, 16 times. You end up with over 43 million combinations. And this is just 3 in that one bar. So keep in mind, this is one bar of 16ths, 4/4 time, common time. There's 6 16th notes. This is how many combinations you can come up with just an accent, a normal, and a ghost note. Now we're going to deal with 4 options. So 4 to the power of 16. And it's 16. I equate it with 16th notes, but we're doing 16 notes because there's 16 in one 4/4 bar. So if you have 4 options, we'll go accent, normal, ghost, and we'll add in a bass drum. So now you got 4 to the power of 16. 4 times 4 times 4 times 4, up to 16 times. You will get this. Now you get 4 billion combinations with just 4 options. So you can see how it's building exponentially. This was 2 times. This is 3 times. Or, sorry, this is our 2 options, just accent, normal, ghost, accent, normal, ghost, and a bass. Now, if we take it to 5 options, and what we'll do is we'll just add in a first tom. Now, with the 5 options, we end up with this. With 5 options, you end up with over 152 billion combinations. So you can see it's not, you add in an extra option, it's just not timesing it by 2 for 65,000. It builds, like I say, exponentially. So now, if we take 6 options, and what we'll do is we'll add in a floor tom. If you have those options with 16 notes, you will get this number. So you get over 2 trillion combinations with just the 6 options. So it gets pretty overwhelming right away. And this is not doubling up. This is not a bass drum with a crash. It's not hitting 2 toms together or anything like that. These are all single notes. And when I first started figuring this out, I was like, wow, this is just overwhelming actually. But when you think about it, there's millions and millions of songs that are written over thousands of years that sound totally different. And 10,000 years from now, there's going to be a ton more different songs. And that is because of this whole system works with every instrument. You got a guitar that has only 6 strings, but all the different inversions and approaches that you can take to it. And this is also only using one of the 29 examples that I've given you to start to develop. So you can see how after a while it just becomes, it's virtually endless. It's really exciting that way because you're not going to run out of being creative. Now I'm going to explain it another way. We're going to go back to just an accent and a normal. I'm going to write out 1 bar for you and show you how to kind of start shifting things around to develop your own ideas. So what we'll do, clean this all up. So in a full bar of 16ths, if I'm going to go, so our power or exponent is 16, and if I'm going to use 3 options, what we'd do is we'd take those 3 options, and whenever I'm trying to create new stuff, I'll just write and then get to the kit and learn what I wrote. It becomes that much more challenging. So what happens is you got your 3 options: accent, normal, and ghost. So I'll just look at it and just I'll throw an accent there, accent there, accent there, and then I'll make those normal, and then I'll put some ghost notes here, and I'll ghost the last 2. So in writing it, I wasn't thinking, oh, this is not going to work. So you can make these work. It's contextual. You want to make sure that your fills are within the proper musical context. Because right away, if you're going to do this fill in a shuffle groove, it might not work as well because it's triplets and this is 16ths. So keep that in mind. So with this pattern, what do? We just put an accent on 2 and 3 and. So you go da 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 da, and then you just ghosted these ones. So you go da 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 da, and then the last two are ghosted. So you could take this and then move these accents up to the first tom, leave the ghost notes on the snare, and put the regular notes on the floor tom. You could just move them around like that. It could get quite challenging pretty quick. So you can see how the options can just keep going here. Let's try something else. So again, just dealing with our 3 options. It doesn't even have to be that random. You can go, okay, I want these ones ghost, I want these ones, oops, these ones accented, and I want these ones ghost, and these ones normal. So you don't have to just randomly put them in. You can just work in groups. So now you have ghost, da 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 da, da 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 da. So again, it becomes another option. Then you can take this accent, you could move it towards the hi-hat, or spread it out between a couple drums. You could have the accents with the bass drum and the crash, you know, and the ghost notes will be just on the snare, and this could be your second tom, or, you know, just get creative. So let's try another one here. Let's see, we'll go for some of this, and a bit of this, a bit of that, some of that, some of that, and then we'll put some ghosts in here. So this was just a random throw again. So let's see what we got. We got accents on the E and the A and the 1 N. So we got da, 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 and then you got ghosts here, accents. So you're coming from 3, da, 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 da. So you got da, 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 da. So right there, that could be a cool groove, you know. So you just kind of develop them that way. You could have something like this playing on your hi-hats, if you're doing a 2-handed thing, of 16ths, and just play this pattern on your hi-hat while having your bass and your snare play on the 2 and 4. So right down here, you're going to have your snare. So you probably wouldn't have a hi-hat at that note, because you just alternate right, left, throughout it. And then your bass drum would be off that. But what you could do is you could make it a bit more funky. We could put a bass drum here and a couple down there. So, you know, you can kind of elaborate it. I would actually start with it probably straight, like that. Just 1 and 3. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 3 on the kick, 2 and 4 on the snare. And that way, once you get used to this pattern on your hi-hats, move the bass drum around, or maybe you want these 2 accents to come down to the snare, you know, or these ones just stay on the hi-hat. And you might want these 2 to come down on the snare. So, you know, again, you can approach it quite a few different ways. You know, as you have these 2 down on the snare, you might want a bass drum to go to the E-A. Kind of open that, and you might put an open close there, hi-hat. You know, so it really becomes quite limitless. What you could do is take this hi-hat pattern and put it on your ride and hi-hat. Now you're doing it between the 2, and then the accents on the right hand you do open the bell, and accents on the left hand you can do with open hi-hat. So, you know, it gets all over the place. You could take these 2 patterns, put them on your tom. Your left hand's on the first tom, right hand on the floor tom. Do that accented pattern while coming back to the snare on the 2 and 4, or where we put it here at the 3 and A, you know. So it becomes quite exciting and quite creative quite quickly. Now I'm going to take it to the kit with this formula, and I'm going to show you 2 trillion different fills. Or not really that many. But anyways, I have a couple examples that I'm going to show you on how to start to develop this, so that now that you have the knowledge of how it works, you'll be able to see it in a little bit more of a practical setting. So let's jump to the kit.